If you like what I do, consider joining my channel or donating to my coffee. Links in the description. This top 10 is a little different. These aren't the best or worst Metroidvanias I've played. These are the ones I forced myself to finish. Games where I hit a wall. Boredom, frustration, burnout, whatever. But pushed through anyway, either out of stubbornness or because everyone online swore they get good later. To rank them, I'm looking at one thing: the pain to payoff ratio. How hard was it to keep going, and was the overall experience actually worth pushing through? Some of these games redeemed themselves and ended up being not just fun, but some of my favorites in the genre. And some made me question every life choice that led me to this moment. So the deeper we get into the list, the less payoff and the more pain each game gave me. Hey, I'm the Metroidvania Guru, and this is my top 10 Metroidvanias I forced myself to finish.
Number 10.
I could not stand Blasphemous when I first played it. A close friend recommended it, and when I got to the town with the Kissers of Wounds, or whatever they're called, like right at the beginning, I genuinely couldn't believe he liked this game. I even messaged him saying, "This game is so depressing," hoping he'd reassure me that it gets more hopeful later. His response? "Yeah, it's a real bummer." That's all he said. So I put the game down. I did not want to play something this bleak. But all that macabre imagery and the mystery around the miracle had already gotten its hooks into me, and eventually I just had to see it through. And guess what? Blasphemous ended up becoming one of my favorite Metroidvanias ever. The pain was real early on, but once I got over that hump, I fell in love with this grotesque masterpiece.
Number 9.
I know this one won't surprise anyone who's been watching my content. I just could not get into Hollow Knight, despite everyone I've ever met insisting it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I booted it up and dropped it 3 separate times before finally giving it a real shot on my 4th attempt. And I know exactly why it didn't click. The opening. Hollow Knight's opening sucks, and this is coming from a fan. I understand what it's doing. I get the tutorial angle, the irony, the tone setting, the atmosphere. It does all of that masterfully. But that doesn't stop it from being boring, especially on repeat playthroughs. I've beaten Hollow Knight twice, because when I love a Metroidvania, I usually run it back immediately to see how fast I can beat it with all the knowledge I've gained. But now I can't even get past that opening anymore. I've tried. So what finally made me stick with it on attempt number 4? The world building, the incredible map, the sublime atmosphere, the story, and a whole lot of peer pressure. But I'm glad I pushed through because everyone was right. Hollow Knight is one of the best Metroidvanias ever made, even if I don't love it quite as much as everyone else.
Number 8.
Lost Epic is a really interesting Metroidvania with some genuinely unique mechanics, the standout being its faith system, or whatever it's officially called. Basically, unless you build up enough faith by doing side quests in a biome, the final boss of that area becomes significantly harder. Get enough faith and the fight becomes manageable. It's clever, it's rewarding, and it had me excited for where the game was going. But then the endgame happens, and the difficulty spiked so hard it felt like whiplash. Out of nowhere, this relatively easy game turned into one of the most punishing experiences I've ever played. I actually had to lower the difficulty just to keep going, and it crushed my morale. Why keep playing when the devs clearly didn't balance the game? I'll tell you why. Because... Okay, I don't want to spoil it, but let me just say, Lost Epic's true ending path is one of the most intriguing and rewarding experiences in Metroidvania history, and I'm so glad I pushed through to see it. Dropping the difficulty bruised my ego, but it was worth it. Reaching the credits to Lost Epic was an absolute blast.
Number 7.
Demoniaca Everlasting Night opened with me hating it, and for good reason. Playing this game feels like you're holding the controller with your feet. The controls are so bad it's hard to articulate. It tries to fuse Metroidvania exploration with fighting game inputs, and it just doesn't work. Movements feel unresponsive, and you jump with a trigger button. It's actually insane, and there's plenty more to dump on. Enemies are too tanky, breakable walls are too tanky, the localization is silly, and the tower you're exploring doesn't feel cohesive. The list goes on. This is not a well put together game, and I cannot, in good faith, recommend it to anyone. But you know what? I love this game, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. It's one of those so bad it's good games. Nah, it's more than that, because the game has some genuinely good qualities. The music is fantastic, the visuals are bizarre and interesting, and you can feel the developer's passion behind it as you play. It's not perfect, and it's definitely not for everyone, but it is for me. And I'm glad I pushed through because Demoniaca gave me an experience I couldn't get from any other game.
Number 6.
When Shadow Labyrinth was revealed at the 2024 Game Awards, I couldn't believe it. A Metroidvania starring Pac-Man? What's next? Kratos getting his own Metroidvania? That'd be ridiculous. But Shadow Labyrinth was real, and it was not what I expected. It was tougher than I thought, talkier than I thought, and way longer than I thought. The whole game felt a little all over the place, but somehow I was still having fun. Until the mazes. The controls in these segments are awful, and every maze is timed, and everyone knows there's nothing worse than timed segments with terrible controls. But hey, they're optional, no big deal, just ignore them and 4 mazes. 4 mazes in a row. 4 mandatory mazes you have to beat to reach the final biomes. Who designed this section? The Dark Lord Baal himself? This was the moment my pain threshold was met. But I pushed through, conquered the mazes and their bosses, and finished the game. Was it worth it? Sorta. I enjoyed Shadow Labyrinth overall, but it has plenty of flaws. It's not a bad game, just not one I'll ever replay.
Number 5.
Silk Song, Silk Song, Silk Song. Are we finally past the honeymoon phase with this game? Can we talk about it honestly now? Because for me, Silk Song was a disappointment. Now, I'm not here to say Silk Song is a bad game. It isn't. I loved the exploration and platforming right from the start. And unlike Hollow Knight, Silk Song didn't have to win me over. I went in excited. It wasn't until the game started beating me down that I began regretting my decision to finish it. I can't pinpoint the exact moment the fun stopped, but Act 3 was the nail in the coffin. That whole section is all filler, no thriller, just an excuse to throw more brutal bosses at you. And that's really the problem. Silk Song's obsession with difficulty. I'm not here for tough as nails boss marathons in my Metroidvanias. I play this genre for exploration, and Silk Song's focus on difficulty destroys its pacing. Metroidvanias need peaks and valleys in their action and difficulty so players can properly explore. But Silk Song, it keeps its difficulty on a constant upward incline, never letting you breathe. Between the stupid flying enemies hovering in your blind spot and constant trolling, Silk Song keeps you on edge throughout its extremely long runtime, and it just wore me down. Am I glad I pushed through? Not really. I hated the entire third act, and the story didn't hit nearly as hard as the original Hollow Knight. Silk Song is a fine game, but I'll never play it again. At least, not till the DLC comes out, and even that's iffy.
Number 4.
Possessors hurt. I really wanted to like this game. It had a unique look, and it was developed by Heart Machine, the team behind Hyper Light Drifter, one of my favorite games of all time. I wanted that same passion and creativity to shine in their Metroidvania debut, but instead of shining, we barely got a flicker. From the jump, Possessors was just boring. The combat wasn't interesting, enemy variety was sparse, platforming was almost non-existent, and progression felt like a slog, though apparently that's since been patched. The game isn't without charm. I liked the world building, the characters, the narrative, and that goes a long way for me, but ultimately, Possessors is kinda rough. I didn't have much fun with it, and it's hard to pinpoint the exact moment I hit the wall. I think it happened when my initial excitement wore off, somewhere around the forest biome, when it became clear the game wasn't going to live up to my expectations. I liked the ending because I liked the characters, but honestly, that's something I could have just watched on YouTube and saved myself the pain of trudging through this snorefest.
Number 3.
Venture to the Vile. I don't know how else to say it. I did not like this game. And I played it long before anyone considered me a quote-unquote influencer. I dropped my own cold hard cash on this game. I had real skin in the game, and man, did it let me down. I can't pinpoint the exact moment I stopped enjoying it, but it was early. Like, first biome early. The big gimmick is that you can shift between the foreground and background, and instead of being cool, it just made navigation a mess. And if confusing navigation wasn't enough, the game also decided not to give players a map. It was an exploratory nightmare. I hated being in this world so much that I apparently missed 2 entire optional biomes. I just didn't care. I wanted the game to be over. I skipped side quests, I ignored content. The lack of a map killed my desire to explore. Yet somehow, I pushed through and got all the endings. Was it worth it? Nope. The game just wasn't fun. Maybe it's been patched since launch, maybe they even added a map, but I'll never know, because I'm not touching this one ever again.
Number 2.
Mars 2120 is an anomaly to me. The game throws a dozen abilities at you, gives you flashy combat options, and drops you into big blockbuster set pieces, yet it somehow ends up being the most bland Metroidvania I've ever played. The story is forgettable, the boss fights are silly even when they're trying to be epic, and the biomes are just so generic I can barely remember them. And the game just kind of ends? I literally stumbled into the final boss without realizing he was the final boss. I have never been so uninvested in a Metroidvania in my life. And that's the problem. There's just nothing here. I don't even know if there was a moment when I stopped having fun because I'm not sure I was having much fun to begin with. I hit the wall early, and it was an uphill battle all the way to the surprise ending. Was the payoff worth the pain? Gosh, no. I still have no idea what happened in that game, and honestly, I'm not too concerned about it.
Number 1.
The Good Old Days was actually torture for me. And that sucks, because it has everything I want in a game. 80s references, amazing pixel art, and a cool character swapping mechanic. On paper, this should have been a slam dunk.
What could possibly go wrong?
Everything can go wrong. The goal is simple. Collect enough money to save your family home. Bring it back to the gangster threatening you, and boom, you beat the game. Or have you? Nope, because the Good Old Days expects you to beat the game multiple times to piece together its story. And this is where the torture begins. Every time you restart, nothing changes. You have to redo everything. Find your friends, unlock the shortcuts, recollect the maps, recollect the money, refight the same bosses. It's tedious, exhausting, and straight up boring. Sure, sometimes things shift, a friend is in a different spot, or they throw in time-stealing ghosts, but for the most part, you're replaying the same content over and over and over again. And the endings you unlock? Not interesting. Definitely not interesting enough to justify a dozen playthroughs. I do not like this game, I do not recommend it, and I regret pushing through the pain for these crappy endings. With such a low pain to payoff ratio, it's easy to see how this nostalgia trip just isn't worth taking. And that's the list. 10 Metroidvanias I forced myself to finish. Some worth the pain, some absolutely not. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Metroidvania deep dives, reviews, and rants. And let me know in the comments, what game did you force yourself to finish, and was it worth it? I'd love to hear your stories. Until next time, later nerds.